I'm super stoked, and it will be interesting to see what happens in the first part of the race. I think we can have a really fast split at Rundmacher.
Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun Podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and we have something extra special for everyone. This is our inaugural ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship race prediction show.
Ooh.
Yeah, sounds cool, right?
It is cool.
So we're not making any predictions because we don't know anything, but we're super lucky to have a couple folks on who are actually going to be doing the live commentary on the ÖTILLÖ Facebook live feed. Jonas Elkman and Henrik Wahlberg. Both are super experienced. They've raced ÖTILLÖ a ton of times. We talk about their background a little bit in the interview. But yeah, they pretty much just lay it out for us.
So we go right through the women's categories, mixed and men's categories, talking about top contenders, dark horses, who to watch, where moves are going to be made. Really cool inside baseball look.
Totally.
Inside Swimrun look at the ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Champion show. I thought it was a great show. Listen to this one. Be sure to tune into the live feed on Monday, September 6th on their Facebook, and you'll hear very familiar voices there. Henrik and Jonas as well, and follow along for all the fun. It looks like it's going to be a great race for every category.
I know we say this a lot.
Are you super stoked?
I'm super stoked
as well. So we can't wait, but the least amount of ado ever. Let's just get right into it. Here comes the ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship prediction show.
All right, we're super stoked to have Henrik Wahlberg and Jonas Ekman to join us today to basically give their expert perspective on what's going to happen at the 15th edition of ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship. Welcome to the show, Jonas and Henrik.
Thank you. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, super stoked to have you. Now, Jonas, we know that you typically race with your brother. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it in Swedish, but it's you guys call yourself the Beaver Brothers?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, usually I race with my brother. Sadly, I'm not doing it this year because of injury.
Mm-hmm.
But he's found an amazing partner with Fredrik Axegård, so I'm hoping he'll do a really good job.
That's a pretty good partner to be able to.
That's not a bad replacement.
It's a good plan B right there. So you've raced in 4 world championships. You've been on the podium 3 times. So super experienced. So we're really looking forward to getting your insight. Now, Henrik, you've also raced the world championship a bunch of times. You were like a college swimmer, D1, with a school record for 100-meter breaststroke. I mean, this is pretty amazing. And you've raced ÖTILLÖ 6 times. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of like what you're going to be bringing to the broadcast next week?
So I did the race actually 6 consecutive times from 2013 to 2018. I think the first time I did that was like the third alternate. I had a remote friend where 2 people get cold feet and pulled out, and then I got reeled in, just before the race. I think that time I was out for close to 12 hours, so got a very good look on the course that time.
Wow.
Lots of time feet on the ground there.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a bit more time to look around than, when you're racing in the front pack of the men's team, then there's a bit more tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But I've done progressively better. So I raced the fast year of 2018, where all the records are still set. That year I actually raced in the mixed category, but then we were out, I think, 8:40, which is still, we got 4th actually, and it's still the 5th fastest time in the mixed category. So
wow.
So cut it down from 12 to 8.5 hours almost. So I think I figured out a few things along the way.
I bet.
It sounds like it. And we had Oscar Olsen on a few weeks ago, giving us a great leg by leg breakdown of ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship. And you two are supporting Oscar with the livesports.se and doing the live streaming of the Swimrun World Championship on Facebook. So you can listen to this, hear the projections, and then you can go on and hear Jonas and Henrik on Facebook live doing the full stream during the race on Monday.
Absolutely. It's a good excuse not to be so productive at work on a Monday morning.
I don't need any more excuses. I already had my calendar blocked off. I'm ready to go when Monday hits.
Yeah, I have an 8-hour meeting.
Yeah,
that day. So why don't we get right into it? I mean, you guys are super experienced. You're very familiar with the course. So why don't we just go right into let's start with the women's.
Let's do it.
On that side of things, who do you see as potential front runners? Who's on the pointy end? And let's just talk through your predictions on what you think the podium's going to look like there.
Well, I'll let Jonas take it first. I raced with one of the favorites my last year in 2018, so I'm a bit biased. So I'll let Jonas take this.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of confident that we have Kristin Larsson and Helena Sivertsson doing ARC Swimrun. Kristin and Helena.
Yeah.
I mean, they're super experienced. Kristin Larsson has done a lot of races through the years. Helena Sivertsson as well. She finished third, I think, on Ute. I can't remember who she ran that with, but Kristin Larsson ended up second on Gothenburg. Mm-hmm. With Daniel Hansson. I think they are the favorites. They have the most experience in a long race. It's always tough with predictions, but especially this year, since the whole of 2020 was sort of disappeared. Mm-hmm. And also Ute usually is a really good race to get predictions for ÖTILLÖ, but this year the course was a lot shorter, so a lot of teams that can go really fast for a short distance that did a great Ute might not end up being able to do the entire ÖTILLÖ course in that pace. So I think they are the favorites to win.
It looks like some of the teams from 2 years ago, like Helen Wilkmar and Isabella Hedberg, are no longer partnered up. They're racing with other people. Do you think? What do you think their chances are?
As you said, Isabella Hedberg is racing with Paulina Sjöholm, and I mean, Isabella is really experienced, finishing third in 2019, but. Mm-hmm. Paulina hasn't done that many races. She's a swimmer, really good swimmer as a background. But I think she's a little bit too inexperienced to bring that level to compete for the win. We also have Team Emvol women second team. With Susie Moonen and Anna Hellström. I mean, I would say they're probably the number one contenders for the win. Anna Hellström has done a really great season with winning Ute and winning the Gothenburg race. Susanna Moonen, a little bit more unclear, and both of them recently gave birth. So it affects women differently, of course, but I think that probably both of them won't have recovered enough to maybe go for the win, but I think they will be runner-ups.
Interesting.
I would probably add two other contenders. So first you have the team from the Swedish West Coast. I'm not sure about the team names, but I know the names. So Ebelina Järvinen and Therese Sperling.
They're called Wild Swimrun West Coast. So you were close. Close on the name.
So I was sniffing it. Yeah. But they did a fantastic race on Ute. So to Jonas' point, maybe it's less of a predictor this year since the race was so much shorter. But I think, coming from the West Coast, that they can deal with technical running, which they showed on Ute. They'll probably struggle with the distance of ÖTILLÖ, but I think they could be up there in the beginning, maybe even with a pack with Kristin and Helena for the first couple of hours. Then we'll see what happens. Yeah. And then there seems this just hasn't been reflected in the start list yet. So this is first-hand information for the Löw Tide Böyz.
Exclusive.
We'll take it.
So Diane Sadik, it looks like she'll be racing in the women's class this year. She's been, I think, both second and third a couple of times in the mixed class. So she wants to try it out in the women's class. So obviously she's done the race in under 9 hours in the mixed class. So very experienced also with the length of the course, and has that sort of endurance profile as well.
Yeah.
So she's presumably going to race with this girl called Isabel Norstedt, she's more of a rookie. I think she was born in 95. Makes me feel very old, but
wow.
So maybe a question mark on the pairing, but obviously with Diane's experience, I think they could be, like a Cinderella team, like we were talking about.
Like a dark horse.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I think Isabel did her first swim run that I know of was Ute this year, and she finished 4th.
Nice.
I mean, she definitely have some swim run in her, but if she has the endurance, they could be that dark horse that swoops it. But maybe it will be a too long race to start with.
Sure.
We'll see.
Yeah. Cool. So the women's race looks like it's going to shape up to be a couple select teams there up in the front, but no sure things for. So we're going to be excited to keep our eye on that one.
Yeah, no, I think obviously anything can happen on a day like this. I train with Helena Löw Tide Böyz, and I keep telling her I don't think anybody will be within 30 minutes of you. Now I'm being a bit bold here, but I think that's how it's going to pan out. They're just so experienced. Probably as a team, they're also the strongest runner, and as Oscar laid out on your other episode, it turns more and more into a runner's race. And if you haven't paced yourself, then time starts ticking very quickly.
Yeah. Especially, as Henrik says, it more and more with the big pull buoys and the paddles, it turns more and more to in the fronts of all categories. You can lose the race in swimming, but you can win it with running. I usually say. So, I mean, if you're a decent swimmer and you end up maybe as the third team in a pack in the water, you get so much drafting. So it's an amazing. It's a real difference from being the first swimmer. So a strong swimming team will have a hard time getting a gap, and especially in the mixed and the women's team, if you break away early. You probably won't be by yourself. You can have other men's team that you can draft on the swimming.
Right.
So it's harder for a strong swimming team in the mixed and women's category to bridge that gap on a swim, since the team in front of them, even though if they're not as good swimmers as you are, they might get really great feet from another team, and then that little extra that you had will be gone.
Right. So, I mean, that's really amazing insight. So thank you for that. So before we move on to the mixed category, where do you think in the women's field, do you think there's a portion of the course where the race might be decided? Is it as early as the first swim, or do you think there might be some spots later on? Obviously, depending on the weather, a lot of things can happen. But there's a spot that you think people watching at home should be kind of paying attention for moves to happen?
I think in the women's team, I think it may not happen until Rundmarö, which is the first bit less technical run. I mean, you run on a gravel road for several kilometers. I think at that point, the most technical running of the whole race really is behind you. The sort of shock of the cold water, which looks like it's going to be a bit colder this year. So I think this is where teams in general will kind of settle into the race. So I think that this is where you're going to be able to see also on body language how hard the teams are pushing. So if you're watching the feed, I think on Rundmarö, you will see in the faces how hard they're pushing.
Yeah. And that's the 4.5K run there on the first kind of bit of the...
Yeah, but then it's just an energy station, and then there's another 3, 4. So it's 8, 9K in total.
Oh yeah, I see. Okay,
gotcha.
Perfect. So basically, the runners are going to get a chance to let the horses run, so to speak, and put some time.
Yeah, it's even a bit diabolic because it's slightly downhill on the gravel road. So if you're feeling good, people tend to really pick up the cadence and go fast.
Nice.
And with the technical running in the start, you really it's a very narrow passage and real technical. So to actually pass other teams, you need to waste quite a lot of energy. Maybe go outside the actual trail just for a little bit. And as we said, especially in the mixed and women's category, there are a lot of other men's teams around. So there's a risk of setting into your place. And also, I mean, the main contenders, Susanna Moon and Anna Hellström, they're really strong swimmers. So I don't think it will be decided on the first swim. But as Henrik says on Runmarö, then you get a little bit more space and you can let the legs go.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Sounds good. All right. Let's transition over to the mixed category.
No pun intended.
You want to do that, Henrik?
Yeah, this actually looks really, really exciting. It's been a bit on and off with the mixed class. When I did it in 2018, Martin Flinta and his partner, they sort of took off early, but then it was a dogfight between the second and the sixth place. Oh. It's looking a bit similar this year, I would say, although I don't think we'll have a clear leader. So I think there's two, possibly three teams that will go in a pack. So you have Peter Roman and Rick Erickson, who won both in Gothenburg and on Utö. Very well-rounded team, both strong runners, both on gravel road and technical running. So I think very well-rounded team. I would say a little bit of a question mark around the distance. I mean, they've done the race several times before. It's just that they, in their training sort of approach, they do a lot of other things. They do a lot of kayaking and mountaineering and lots of other things. So they're used to being out for many hours. So they're experienced with the energy intake and all of that. So they will not make any mistakes there. It's just whether or not they can run, at a certain pace for 8 or 9 hours. I have a little bit of a question mark whether or not they will make it to the very top, but definitely contenders. And they've showed this year that they've even gotten better. They're about my age, 45, 46 or so on Peter and Ulrika, a few years younger, but I would put them up there as contenders for sure. And then you have Desiree Anderson, of course, who switched from women's to mixed team because she wanted a challenge herself to see if she could win it also in the mixed category. So fair play to her. So she's teamed up with a guy called Victor Dahl, he won in Engadin this year. He won in Engadin last year as well, and he's won the Malta race in mixed category. Probably one of the fastest runner in the field in all categories. He's like a 32 something 10K runner. So younger guy. Wow. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be difficult to keep up with these guys. Yeah.
He's like top in the Swedish middle distance triathlon. So he's got both swimming and running really good.
Yeah.
So they're probably the most well-rounded team. It's funny. Not funny, but it's cool to see that they do a similar approach that Ulrika Erickson and Peter Rohm does. So where the woman will actually be in front on the swims and the guy will be in front on the run. So Desiree will use a tow line and pull Victor in the water. And Ulrika will do the same with Peter. And then they switch as soon as they get on land. So it's really cool to see in the mixed category that they can really work as a team where it's not just one locomotive guy that pulls poor girl along the course for 9 hours. So a real testament to the sport that you can find those sort of team setups.
Sure.
So it'll be really interesting to see. They obviously they're young. They got the speed. They got the experience, with a caveat that Victor has not done the full ÖTILLÖ. So he's a very fast runner, very good track record with World Series races, but still a little question mark whether or not he knows how to pace himself for the full ÖTILLÖ distance. So that's the caveat that I'll put out there. And then you have the other contenders, which I would say is Kenny Meyer and Amanda Nielsen. Kenny raced with our common friend Oscar in the men's category last time the race was on 2 years ago. I think he learned his lesson with the energy plan. I think from what I was told, he was preparing like a marathon runner, to go into the race with an empty stomach, just to be as light as possible.
Yep.
I think he will approach it differently this time. And hopefully start with at least halfway full stomach and start fueling a little bit earlier.
He actually told me after that race as well that the week before he had like 2 days with a fever. But he'd been feeling fine the last couple of days, so he thought it wouldn't matter. But I was like, fever before Altera, that could also make you tired on Una more than you're supposed to be.
For sure.
Yeah, I was on the course that year on the last energy station before he swam over to Orna, and I just saw it in his eyes. Game over. There's no coming back from this.
Yeah, once you get too far behind on the energy, it's tough to climb out of that.
Yeah. The guy was just scooping in energy gels in his wetsuit to bring along for the run on Orna. So yeah. So hopefully no fever. Hopefully better energy plan. He's done the race numerous times. I think in 2018, where it was a quick race, he did it in the men's class, and with a different partner than Oscar. He did it in around 8 hours flat. So he's probably a 2:30 marathon runner. I'm not sure if he's done it tapered, but that's kind of his capacity. So I would say Victor and Kenny are probably equal capacity-wise on a longer distance. Victor's a bit quicker, but on a 60K race, I would say their capacity is quite on the same level. And then Amanda Nielsen, Kenny's partner, extremely good trail runner, probably one of the best trail runners of all the women in the field, but a little bit less experienced swimmer than a Desiree or Ulrika Erickson. So a little bit different composition. So it's a very tough call.
Yeah.
I favored Kenny and Amanda a little bit, and I think Jonas favored Victor and Desiree. But it's gonna be super cool to watch. I think it's gonna be the first time where I think we see a pack in the mixed category for at least the first half of the race.
Yeah,
so I think all those 3 teams will be in the pack. Otherwise, I'll be surprised again. I think Ulrika and Desiree are super strong swimmers, and I think Kenny and Amanda will find some feet on the first swim. So I reckon they will come up about at the same time.
Awesome.
And then you have some other interesting teams just to round this up. Sure. You have Marika Wagner and Alexander Kohler.
Yeah.
Marika has been on the podium several times. She's won the race in mixed category. She even held the course record for a while in the mixed category. Super experienced endurance athlete. Just done lots of longer multi-day races, so she knows exactly how to pace herself for it too. Alexander Kohler, not as experienced, but he trains with Oscar. So Oscar keeps telling me that this guy is a golden boy. He's a very strong swimmer.
That's your inside track on him. Okay.
Yeah. No, he just hasn't found a good partner. That it takes 2 to tango. So he hasn't really had a chance, I think, to shine. So this might be a good opportunity. So I think they, again, Alexander is a very strong swimmer as well. So they could come up with a pack as well, I think.
Nice.
So you could have 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 teams in the mixed pack as well, which has never happened before. So I think it's going to be a real treat to watch that. And then as far as dark horses in the mixed category, you have the Swiss team of Alexis Carrier and Sabine Rappelli.
Yeah,
they've kind of been a bit quiet. They've been on the podium a couple of times, haven't really been winning, but they've just sort of steadily improving year over year. I think they have the profile for this race. So again, if this pack goes like crazy and a couple of team bonks, this could be a team that could pick up some corpses along the way.
It's also the first team that we're talking about that isn't Swedish. So
the mixed category seems to have the most non-pure Swede teams. There's a lot of diversity in the origin countries here.
And on that theme, you have Paul Krochek, who has won the men's race a number of times. 3 or 4 years back, I think was the last time. He's actually, or maybe even more, it was 4 or 5 years since he last raced, but he's sort of taken a time out. Now he's making a comeback in mixed class with a girl named Angelica Wagner, who's a very strong trail runner. So obviously Paul has he's probably not as quick as Victor and Kenny. I mean, he's been around 2:30 in the marathon as well. So obviously he has the experience, but he's been out of the sport a couple of years. So who knows, but he knows how to pace himself. So again, if they make mistakes in the front, this could be one of the teams that are sort of a few minutes back that are ready to take you over if you hit the wall. So
and Paul is 46, so it gives hope for us people in our 40s. Chipper doesn't know anything about this, but for us people solidly in the business end of our 40s, it's encouraging.
And we do have a special shout out going to the only California, only American team in the mixed category, our favorite Andy Hewitt and Mel Bartow. California Swimrun.
We definitely have to work on that. It's only one American team.
One American team. And then another special shout out, Mr. and Mrs. B, Bill Langford and his wife are also racing this. So go Bill.
I think they're the only UK team.
They're the only UK teams. There we go.
Awesome. Cool. So let's talk about, I guess, the main event, the fastest, which is going to be the men's. You guys have both raced in this category. There's a lot of experience there on your end. Now, why don't you tee up for us kind of like what you see the men's field looking like this year?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of since there's been no world championship last year. There's a couple of known names and there's a couple of new names. I think Henrik and I agree that it's mainly 4 teams that will be making up the front pack, but it's always hard to say. We have of course Kraken Swimrun, George and Pontus Racing, who are the reigning world champs, exactly. Oscar and Adriel, and then Lars and Frederick Racing. All these teams really experienced. Possible scenario, and also of course Orc Swimrun France with Hugo Tormento and Matthew Paulin. I mean they haven't been up there. They're maybe the new names if you just watch the front teams, but especially Hugo has done a lot of swimrun races. He did 2018 and 2019. 2018, I think he went with Diane Sadiq. 2019, he went with what I think was his brother, and they were a bit further back. But these guys are really, really strong swimmers. Maybe their Achilles heel will be the technical running, especially in the start. And a possible scenario is that we all know, or I who have raced the race in the top teams, we all know that Oscar Olsson loves to go hard from the start. He a lot of times he has the plan to he's really good technical runner, and so have Lars and I been. So he a lot of times he have the plan to go hard from the start. Don't know if he will be bold enough to do that this year since he's teaming up with Adriel. Adriel is really a really good athlete, but he took 2019 off, and I don't know how much training he's been doing 2020. So the risk of going too hard will be maybe Adriel not managing the distance. But I think if I know Oscar, I think they will go really hard from the start and try to leave Pontus and George behind, since Pontus and George, they're all around. They do everything really well, but maybe the technical running is their Achilles heel. So and we will see what happens. If they go hard, then maybe Lars and Fredrik will try to stay with them, and I think Pontus and George will do everything they can to stay with as well. If this happens, I don't think that the French team with Hugo and Matthew will be able to keep up with these guys. But maybe those three teams will go so fast that they will risk,
they'll all blow each other up.
Yeah. So
exactly.
So Jonas, let me ask you. So this is a little bit insider, because since Lars is your brother and he's racing with Fredrik, who's obviously world record holder. Now, what do you think your brother's approach is going to be? Is he going to try to just are they going to try to just stay with Pontus and George, or just kind of see how it happens and sort of kind of see where the race goes and then think on their feet and make decisions? Or do you think that your brother and Fredrik are going to have a plan to make sure they keep Oscar and Pontus and George kind of in check?
It's all. I mean, it's all going to be depending on how fast some of the teams go, and depending on how they feel. I know that Lars is always keen to go fast in the beginning. Also, he's a really, really good technical runner. I've had to become a good technical runner since I've been towed by him through the terrain. With the line that we used in the beginning, I just had to keep up and let my feet go. So he definitely likes that approach, the same as Oscar Olsson. Fredrik, all the races I've raced ÖTILLÖ with Fredrik, I mean, the guy can look like he's about to bonk on Rundmare, and then he's one of the strongest runners on Une. He has an amazing stamina when it comes to like over 4 or 5 hours. It's really cool to see. So when we saw Ute, that's sort of what happened. They actually was in 6th place for some time, and then they came up in the last part of the race and finished 3rd. So I think the distance is
play in their favor.
Yeah, especially in Fredrik's favor. So saying that, if Oscar and Adriel goes really hard in the beginning, maybe they will not try to stay with them because of the risk of actually burning out. And if Lars and Fredrik lets Oscar and Adriel go, then maybe Pontus and George will have a more of a more incentive to let them go as well, because it's always tougher to let 2 teams go than let 1 team go. It's always easier to catch that lonely team in the front than being the lonely team and catch up with 2 teams.
Yeah.
So I'm super stoked, and it will be interesting to see what happens in the first part of the race. I think we can have a really fast split at Rundmare, and then if we have that, it'll be interesting to see what happens after that.
Okay. Yeah. So when you guys are sort of scoping this and calling it out, it seems like this run, this 8K or pretty much 9-10K run is sort of where the first opportunity for a lot of these teams to kind of play their hand or show their strategy a little bit. If they are going to push pace a lot, I mean, this is the first hour and a half to 2 hour and a half or hour to hour and a half of the race. So that's pretty early to be making some serious moves. But is that the place where people are going to be kind of showing their hand for this?
I think
actually,
if Oscar puts his foot on the gas pedal, I think he will go from the first island. So I think then it becomes a decision for the other teams whether or not they're going to burn a few matches on Rundmare to try to catch up with them or stay behind. So I think that'll be the scenario, because not a lot of people have the option of trying to stay with Oscar in the terrain if he's in that kind of a mood.
Right.
Yeah, and if they are a pack to Rundmare and then I think that's where maybe Pontus and George will start pushing it if they feel they have some extra energy. I mean, because the gravel road running is their if the technical running is Oscar's specialty, then I would say that that gravel road running or street running would be their specialty.
Now let me ask you, how since this is never going to be us, but on the pointy end, when you're racing at the front, how easy or hard is it to keep track of what your place is? Because you think like in the water, you might be passing teams. Like, are there volunteers that are sort of giving you the splits, being like, oh, you're 2 minutes back, or do you have a pretty good sense of where you are in relation to the other competitors?
The only time you're confused is when you're getting up from the first swim, I would say, because there it's so messy that you're trying to keep an eye on the main teams that you know that you want to be in close contact to. But, it's early in the morning, it's cold, your body's in a bit of a shock, and you come up and it's slippery and you're focusing on just getting out of the water. So once you're up on your feet again, you really need to kind of recalibrate and see where you're at. I think after that, you're going to know exactly where you're at the entire time.
Okay. So, the first...
I agree. The first, like the entry for the first swim, everybody just fans out and then goes into the water. And that first, 500 meters or 1K of that swim can be a bit crazy. But then usually it sort of settles and... we had a couple of years back, we were not in the front, and then you get up after the first swim and you have no idea how far ahead the pack is. But as Henrik says, quite fast you start noticing, and especially when you get to the swims, you can see people ahead of you, and then you I think it's a lot harder for the mixed and women's teams to know exactly which placement they have. For the men's teams, usually, they're usually the front is ahead, and you see all the teams in front of you, and you know that if there's 5 teams in front of you, usually that's 5 men's teams.
Those are the 5 teams. Now, now in terms of dark horse picks for the men's field, someone like Max Anderson, who's been doing really great. He won the ARC Super Sprint and some full races as well.
Plays well at ÖTILLÖ.
Yeah, he's partnered with Ricard. I'm gonna mess up his last name. Yeah, Berglund. What do you think his chances are or that team's chances are at a race like this?
I think, as you say, I think they're a dark horse. Both these guys are really competent swim runners. Ricard's done ÖTILLÖ before. He came in third with Diane a couple of years back, I think, and he's been doing a lot of swim runs. And we actually swam together in Gothenburg when we both were swimmers and not swim runners.
Oh, nice.
So these guys, it's since I'm repeating this, but since the 2020 season sort of disappeared, and then this season ÖTILLÖ was so short. They can definitely surprise and be with the top teams, but to me that would be a little bit of a surprise. I think they will be somewhere close to the top teams, and if the top teams burn themselves out because they go too hard, these guys can definitely make the podium. But I think they're a little bit of a dark horse.
Okay, right. So let's get to actual predictions. So on the podium for the men's team, what would you guys say is your prediction for how that's going to shape out?
Well, I think we have. I'll have to say that Lars and Fredrik wins it because I don't know. I'm probably biased, but
it's okay.
I think they'll actually. I think Adriel, Oscar will go a little bit too fast, and Adriel will be a little bit short when it comes to the distance, and that's when both Lars and Fredrik, like the last 3 hours of the race, they will. I think they will on Una. They will show that they have the entire race in their bodies, and they will make first place. I think Oscar and Adriel will be second, and Pontus and George third.
Okay.
Okay.
How about you, Henrik?
Yeah, I tend to think of it in terms of appetite as well. So I think Lars and Oscar are the hungriest guys out there. They've been wanting to win several times. They've been very close. Sometimes it's circumstances, sometimes it's not the day. So I also, it's a close call for me, but I would also I would put 5 Swedes and an Australian on the podium. That's how I think it's going to shake out. Not any disrespect.
Very political answer.
I think also, we didn't mention this team. We have Guillaume Henneman and Remy Mariette as well, which I think could be a dark horse.
Yeah.
And you have Nicola Ramirez and Francesco Lanuzza. They could also be a dark horse. But I think it's really the 3 or 4 teams that have been in the front pack in the past will be the same pack. But I'll give it to Oscar and Adriel just to give a different answer than Jonas.
There we go.
Nice.
I think maybe if we summarize all of this, the big caveat is that from experience, every single year, the 1 or 2 weeks leading up to the race, this is where people sometimes throw in the towel. If there are injuries that they were praying were going to go away or something happens. So all of the teams that we talked about today, I'm quite sure that at least one of them will race with a different partner or not show up altogether, because it's a very, very fine line to prepare to compete at this pace and distance and not get injured. So I think it's a bit of a silly season, in the 1 or 2 weeks leading up to the race. Obviously, we're not gonna say anything if we know anything, but I think you can expect changes. Some people are on standby. They're hoping to get a partner to race with. So it's a bit crazy, but I still think there will be 5 Swedes and an Australian on the men's podium.
I love it.
Good answer. Yeah. Make your own. You take that how you want, and you mix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. We got our shout outs to the U.S. teams, of course. We got the Stormronks, Phil and Sean. Team Onville Baywatch, Beak and Blake. We have It Be Me, and Timothy, with Jonathan Story and Tim Ferguson. And we have a few other partial U.S. teams, but those are the core U.S. only teams. So special place in our hearts for those folks. But
very dark horses.
Very dark horses there. But yes, so be sure to tune in to Facebook or Facebook Live on Monday, the September 6th. ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship, will be streaming live, and you can hear Jonas and Henrik again calling the shots for the field there. That will be a long day for you guys there. What time will there be a little bit of a pre-show there for people to tune into?
I think there will be a few short interviews at the start line, and then I'm glad that Jonas trained his technical running, because he's gonna do the first section on the first island, which is probably the crappiest run on the entire course. People are in. It's a little bit easier if you haven't done the mile swim before. You have warm, fresh legs. So I'm actually doing the slow run in the pack down to the first beach, and then we have a boat that helps us out to toddle along the course. So we have it's a bit like interval session for us. We jump in on the island and go with the men's pack, which is difficult enough if it's technical, but at least we have warm bodies and fresh legs. So we take turns. So we have a very detailed plan for that. So we're hoping to give good coverage throughout the entire day. So we'll be able to see all these moves that we've sort of predicted today. We don't know exactly when they'll happen, but we have a few obviously ideas of when different teams could try different things. So it'll be very exciting. And again, I think also in the mixed category this year, it's going to be also a bit more like a bike race, where there's a pack, and if one team goes, do you don't bother, or do you sit back in the pack, or do you try to close the gap? A lot of tactics. So it's going to be really exciting.
I love it.
We're super stoked on it, and we really appreciate you two coming on and sharing your wealth of expertise on this amazing race with us and breaking it down. We look forward to tuning into the stream and all the action on Monday, September 6th. So,
absolutely.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, and thanks for the support of growing the sport and bringing it to the US. It's exciting.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You guys got to come out to Catalina, by the way.
I heard when they did it, it was an amazing race, and we Yeah, we said, Lars and I, we said that we should just go over there for like 3 weeks with the family and do the race.
Yeah.
That would be. There's Disneyland over there. There's all sorts of fun stuff. Anyway, thanks again, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Löw Tide Böyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes, or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
Or run to the car.
Or run to your car.
Somewhere. Just keep running.
Peace.
Only happiness, I'm about to